Hello, everybody, or anybody, if anybody's watching. Hello, anybody, if anybody's watching. Well, I am filling in here, sort of, for Jacob while he is honoring the Sabbath. And so I'm just going to hang out here and see if anybody wants to talk. If anybody wants to watch this, I'll play a little clip for those who may not have seen. This is from my channel, so you can get a little idea of who I am if you don't know who I am. Well, hello. I'm Michael Lewis Thomas Sartori, but you can call me Mike. I'm just a normal working class guy with normal working class beliefs, like we shouldn't trust the government, and the earth is only 6,000 years old, and my great grandpa wasn't a monkey. I also believe that Jesus Christ is the answer to pretty much everything, just like we learned in Sunday school. Now, you may wonder why a guy like me is on here talking to folks like you. As long as I can remember, there was something that I liked to listen to while I was doing my work, and that was National Public Radio. And sure, I disagreed with their communist-type politics, but they used to talk about a lot of the finer things in life that I appreciate, the arts and music and such. A man likes to think about the deeper things while he's building a piece of furniture or fixing a building. Well, after a while, I realized that they didn't talk nearly as much about books or music or art or the things that a cultured man likes to think about while he's working. And instead, they were obsessed with these ideas about girls being able to become boys and boys being able to become girls, even though everyone knows that you're born the way that you are and you can't really change that. You can mess up what you got, but it's still going to be what you are. I had to find something new to listen to. What I liked best was discovering this thing called this little corner of the internet. Now, you may not think that a working class guy like me would be interested in discussions about the nature of consciousness or the meaning crisis, but I find that there's nothing like a stimulating discussion to really help make your workday meaningful. And I especially like Paul Vanderklay. I don't think you could ever get upset with that guy. But some of these folks, they're supposed to be at the top of the status hierarchy in their field. It sounds more like they climbed a ladder up their own rear end. Now, I knew enough already that just because you have a PhD doesn't mean you have anything worth saying. But then I found out that it actually doesn't cost anything to come on here and say whatever you want. And that's where we are right now. I'm not trying to do anything fancy here, but from what I gather, the traditional way to end one of these is to say something like, please like and subscribe. And since I'm a Christian, we usually end things in a traditional way too, by saying amen. All right.
You're in your car. You're doing one of those.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes, I have more flexibility. All right. Okay. Well, Chad, if you're here watching this, just come on. I put the link in there somewhere. Oh, I gotta close the other window. There we go. Someone come talk to me. We're not allowed to talk about the Trinity because Jacob's not here and he'll be disappointed.
How's it going, guy?
Ooh, pretty good. Pretty good. I had a rough week. I mean, just a lot of work. That's all. But
Yeah. Oh, look at you flexing, bro. You got what's up? I just had a rough week, bro. I wish you could see me right now, but my lights turned off, and I don't want to put on a mask.
yeah, I see your ember flickering there.
It was kind of a rough week. Well, last week was more of a rough week. It's been a rough few weeks, man, to be quite honest.
At work or just in general?
A lack of it.
That's I have the exact opposite problem. So,
well, I had the company I typically work for has had a little bit of a slowdown that will pick back up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But then I ended up calling a guy that I used to work for, and he put me to work for a week, which was great, just to get out of the house. And I kind of took a little bit of cut and pay, which was fine, but it's not something I'd want to do. Hang on, I'm gonna mute this camera quick. It's not something I'd want to do all the time, but I got to do some work, and that was good. And then I called my mom's husband, and I was like, "Hey, man, do you know any companies right now that are looking for guys?" And he's like, "I got a guy." And so I called that guy, and then that dude was like, "Yeah, I got plenty of work." So this week was back to a full work week, which was very good, very, very good. So I can kind of get wrapped up in my head if I'm not doing stuff.
Yeah. I am fortunate to have found a job in this industry that's like a regular W-2 employee kind of thing. So I know that's like not the norm for working in the trades and stuff. So do you usually work on like new construction or?
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, it's like sometimes it's new, but other times it's remodel. Mostly commercial jobs.
Oh, okay.
Like this week I'm working, and next week I'll be working at the chemistry building at UW-Madison. So it's like one of the new buildings going up there, or it's like a remodel.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Doing some bathrooms, yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much just work in it's new homes or whatever. But there's a couple of like the different builders when they build like their office building, and then they've had us like come and do all the cabinetry in their thing, and it's such a pain in the butt because it's just like it's so massive. Like there's like all these like many kitchens and bathrooms, and like our system is just not like our like computer system just lumps it all as like this is one house that's enormous. So like keeping track of stuff is like super difficult. Like if you're trying to figure out like what if something's broken and you need to order a replacement, like which kitchen is it for? And there's sometimes like they have different styles and colors and stuff all throughout the building. So
for sure, yeah.
But we don't do too much of that. Mostly it's just new homes. So
You guys just do the cabinets or do the granite tops too?
just the cabinets.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the granite people come and screw them up, and then we fix them. So
Yeah, they do. I used to do that. That was one of the toughest jobs. Just it's made for a young man. I mean, even then,
granite.
it's insane.
You talking about the granite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like when you start carrying in basically half slabs that are turned into islands and stuff like that. It's just like too much.
You know what's funny too? Like some of these, I don't know. There's I just saw this. The Babylon Bee did these like skits of like Californians moving to Texas, and it was like so like spot on, just all the way they are. But like some of these houses, it's like they're like, well, we can get a ton of money for this house, but they don't know how to like make it better, so they just make it bigger. So they have like kitchens with like 2 islands in them, and like 3 islands. So it's like you could have a cooking show like in your kitchen if you wanted to, but it's just I'm just so everybody knows, I'm probably going to be terrible at responding to chatting while I'm trying to do this because I'm not a multitasker, and I avoid texts in general. But thank you for the compliment to my guitars. They are mostly used for decoration now, sadly, but that's okay. Every once in a while I get to go play at church or whatever, but it's just like I could have done it yesterday, but I ended up working till 7:00, so I was like, no, I don't want to go practice. So yeah, but it's good.
Do you create anything anymore, or were you ever? Well, you used to. We talked about this. I
was in some bands and stuff. There's, as far as I can tell, there's one song on Spotify that is a song that I wrote. But I tried to look and see if like any of the other stuff, but I don't think anybody uploaded it because most of it was like right before that kind of whole thing started, and nobody cared to find an old CD and upload it. So
sure. Yeah, you can find our stuff over on what is that? Reverb Nation. That's like that was a platform that bands were using. They still might be using it for all I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like yeah. Most of the stuff was because like the last time I was in like a real like band was, I don't know, it was like 21 or something like that. And then our church like I played guitar and like a bunch of people who did like recordings, like worship albums and stuff like that. So I bet I could find some of those maybe. I don't know. But it's one of those things. When my children are not so time intensive, then I will spend more time doing that. But
I started dabbling a little bit in lyrics yesterday. I was writing basically my first I don't know, kind of more gospelish song. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like I wish, like, I think now I would have such a different approach. Like doing this YouTube thing has kind of been good for my like creative instinct, because it's kind of like, I don't care, I'm just going to put it out. It's going to be done now. But like that instinct is so hard with like songwriting and stuff. And one of my friends like got really good at like recording all that stuff, and then he went and became a heathen and didn't want to talk to any of us anymore. So like literally we built a recording studio in his parents' basement, and then he basically like abandoned all of the rest of the band as like friends, and he just kept the recording studio, and that was like his business for the next many years. But I ended up buying a lot of that stuff and like doing it, but it's just like you can just tweak like the mixing for like forever and like adding more tracks and stuff, and it's just knowing like when to stop is just, it's just your brain just dissolves into mush.
Yeah.
So like having some sort of like, so this kind of this thing of just like, I just got to be done and put it up. If it's not perfect or well, whatever, it is what it is. Like it probably would be better, because I think too, like, I don't know, like you know, I hear people saying like, oh, you just gotta like write like tons of songs, so you just like write 10 bad songs to get to like a good one or whatever, and like,
Right.
and that's like how it is. But I always would want to like, no, this song is like my little treasure, so I want to like keep making it work. And when it's like, you never know when to like just quit and give up. And
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I found were being a creative that made music was like, it was almost hell in a sense, because like in that tendency you're talking about, for me, started kind of trickling into even my listening experience of music. Like I couldn't even listen to music without critiquing it to death. Like I couldn't just put the headphones on and listen and enjoy what I was hearing. Like I would think like, why did they do it like that? And I wouldn't have done it that way. And they should have mixed it or whatever, and it made the whole process eventually. The process basically had me, and like, again, like I agree with you, like doing like the YouTube stuff is a lot more liberating, kind of, because it's for me, it's uh the it pivots on impulsive creative action, and so there's no grid in the editing process for these videos. Like I don't have a grid that, or like, like a click track to keep to. There's like, it's also requires, for kind of the stuff that we do, it requires timeliness, so you have to get it out there quick, kind of.
Yeah.
And so you like the most enjoyable part or way to do it is to kind of create and edit almost impulsively without a lot of thought. It's very much like, I see something, use it, like all the production isn't great, but I think it's kind of, I don't know, there's a kind of like a unique style to what all these guys are doing. Anybody that's doing these kind of like, especially if you're being creative with it rather than just thinky talky, there is kind of a style to it, which is cool. I like it, but I almost like it too much.
Yeah, you know what? It's like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, most of what I've been putting out lately has just been like me in the car, because that's all I can really have the time for, because the editing stuff does take a while. And like, and like, I, for a while there, I was trying to like always like grab the clips and stuff, and or like I'd like, if I was listening to something and it was good, I'd like screenshot it so I could go record it later. But just, the time it takes to put all this stuff, it makes it so much longer. And I was going back and forth, because for a while there, I felt like I was doing everything I was doing was just like, oh, I gotta make this video within the next day or so, while it's still relevant to the conversation that just happened, so that people will want to watch it. But like, really, I do have some things that like are more long term, like this is what I'm interested in. And so I'm trying to I guess kind of do it like the way Paul does it, where he's just like throwing everything on YouTube, and then
it's like a part of his thinking process, which is kind of different for me. I really like writing stuff that way. Like in my like Google Docs, I have like 80 or 90 like half written kind of like essays or my thoughts about different things that's more of like serious like research or me trying to put my thoughts together, because like I really do like writing helps me organize my thoughts way better. But I do think video is kind of, well, this is the way that people consume content now. Like that's how I consume content. I buy books, and then the only time I have to read is like at 10 o'clock at night, and then my brain is like mush and I can't absorb any information. So it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and even still, like, even if I had the time to read, because I've tried this, like, I just become way too relaxed and I'll basically fall asleep. So all of like the books that I read are all on Audible, and I just do that while I'm at work, and
Yeah.
I really like that a lot. But
Yeah, I do like that. I mean, I like to listen to a lot of audiobooks, but then it's like if it's stuff like some of this stuff, it's like I don't know. Like this book, I read like a little bit. It's like a philosophy book. CW. Oh, sorry, I get the glare on it. Roots of Western Culture: Pagan, Secular, and Christian Options by Herman Doyward.
okay.
So he's actually Burn Power talked about Doyward in like one of his videos about he's a Dutch Calvinist guy, so it's like Paul's Vanderklay's ancestors, but like it's really good a little bit, but like this would be probably, I don't even know if it's available in audio, but like if this was in audio, it's like I would just have to like keep backing it up and listening to it over and over again, like, so it's like this is like a book that like in theory I want to like read it and like write down the important things, but just I have very little time to do that in a meaningful way. So,
yeah, I mean that's kind of like Maps of Meaning was like.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap! You could probably listen to that thing 100 times and not get all of it. But I mean, that's why I bought the Brothers Karamazov, because I like there's so much great stuff in that book. Like listening to it, that I felt like I really wanted to take the time and actually read it, because the only book I really read is this book, which is the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and as you can see, it's got a lot of miles on it. But I mean, and I only actually read like basically this portion of it right here, this small portion. Where is the camera? This is the program of it. So that's what I sit down with guys and we go through this portion of the book.
What's in the other half of the book? The big half.
Personal stories.
Oh, okay.
Which are cool. I mean, I like them. I just, I don't really, and I don't just sit and read that thing either. I like you're not going to find me just picking it up and doing like reading it. It's actually more of like a textbook.
Yeah.
Go through with guys, and a book to lay our experience up against. But other than that, I don't really read. But I have a really cool library. You want to see it? I'll show it to you. Show it to you quick. So what did you think of that Q&A? Hey, honey.
It was pretty good.
I'm on the live stream for a little bit. It's Michael Sartori. She says, "Oh, hello."
Hello.
He says, "Hello." Okay, I'm going to show you this library quick. So we had this little flood, our water drainage pipe backed up a couple months ago, and so we had to rip all the carpet out and some of the walls. But then I retiled it. Where is yeah, you see the tile back there?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's all tile. I still have some more yet to do. This is our movie theater, so it's kind of cool.
Nice.
So this is where I want to do my estuary meetings at.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. So we have here's my library, or my favorite part of the library. I got a couple of signed Peterson books. My wife got these for me on our first anniversary. Got Cannery Row as the first edition. Here's my brother's Karamazov. This is a really beautiful Easton press. Let's see. We got like all these different spiritual books down there of different sorts. And we got this, which is, we got a bunch of Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
We got some Atlas Shrugged. We have Lord of the Rings. We got the Gulag Archipelago. I think this is like from the 70s.
Yeah.
We got this entire thing from my my wife's uncle. When he passed, he left us. This is all the great courses. We got the great ideas of philosophy, history of the United States, wisdom of history, the Old Testament, New Testament, yada yada. All this. We got some Lives of the Saints. I am actually in one of these right now.
That's cool.
We got this. I really want to read this. Have you ever read any of this, dude?
A little bit, but it's kind of funny. So, like, say like Francis Schaeffer, who I have talked about a bunch.
Yeah.
He blames. He has this weird chart of like philosophers, and like he puts Kierkegaard at this thing called the line of despair, and he says everything after that is just like basically he kind of thinks like Kierkegaard I don't know, he knocked the final like stone loose of like whatever was holding society together. So, which I mean, I don't know. I know it's like he's meaningful to a lot of people, but I it's like, I don't know. I haven't felt the need to do a deep dive on him, but
yeah, that's what the Francis Schaeffer. Yeah, that I was listening because I had one of his audiobooks, and I stopped reading to it because it was like, I find when I start getting into like all these different thinkers, if I'm not really prepared for it, it kind of tears me apart.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tough because I'm a dweeb. We got our like fiction, all this fiction section here. So, yeah. Let's see. Yep.
Very nice.
It's our library. Just thought I'd share that with the world. So, what'd you think of that Q&A today?
Oh, it was good. I didn't really. Did they announce that was happening like earlier? When did that pop up or whatever?
This morning sometime.
Oh, I was a little annoyed because I had put like a question in the old queue, like, and then like the day after, Paul was like, we're gonna pause the Q&As for a while, and so my question from many months ago never got answered. But
yeah.
And
you can always repost it.
I know. Well, I didn't know that it was. So I mean, I will post something for next time. But it was my question about should Christian incels get mail order wives?
Oh, interesting.
That was my question. I mean, it's like a kind of a jokey thing, but then it's kind of like, well, I don't know if you actually think about it seriously for a minute. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea. Like, because I mean, those ladies are in like really desperate positions. I mean, like some of them are probably terrible gold diggers, but like, I don't know if they're like, yes, I will sign up to like marry the first guy from America who will let me get out of this country, then like I don't know, they may if some then you know because like most of the people that sign up for those things are probably really creepy. But my thought was, we have all these people who are like probably decent people, but because of all the weird like connection problems that our society has, like and the status hierarchies, like they don't have a shot. So maybe they should just get some woman from another country who and treat them really well, and like then that will make them a better person. Like because I don't know how you, I'm sure you probably agree about this to some extent, but like because marriage is like it's such a growing experience. It's like the most powerful growing experience. Like and I think that before you're married, you and our society definitely puts so much emphasis on like the picking. Like you have to pick the right person, but the being too picky, and men and women both do it, keeps you from getting married, and then it keeps you from that transformative experience where it's like nobody marries the person that they think that they want to, but you become a good person like by being married. And I think that because everybody's like looking for the total package, they never like pull the trigger. Where
Yeah.
because I mean, not to say like I mean like I sort of think like any two people could make it work if they were committed enough. That's easy for me to say. Like God led me to my wife in like a very, very specific way. It was literally like, this is the one for you. And I was like, oh, okay. And like I asked him for a sign and he gave me a sign. And then it's like we knew we were getting married on our second date, So like but even still, even with that like supernatural kind of like God brought us together, it's a lot of work to make our marriage work, like, but that makes me so much of a better person.
Yeah. Well, so my grandma Carolyn and my grandpa David, they met when they went to different schools, and he met her at like I don't know, she worked at a drive-in or something, and he met her and they dated and they were married within 6 months, and they stayed married forever the whole time. And I remember when I was younger, she had mentioned that we didn't really marry out of love necessarily, like which was interesting to hear her say that. But we married because I don't know, because it was it was right or something. But they weren't really at all. They like at all. So that's kind of interesting. But then, and I hear a lot of this now. Like if you listen to some of the red pill spaces and stuff like this, there's dudes out there that like they really believe like there is no incentive whatsoever to get married. And it's like that's relatable to a degree, because I remember thinking for most of my life that I was never going to get married. Like that was just, I didn't see the point of it. Like it's the same arguments that you always hear, right? It's like, it's the state's involved, and what's the point, and all this stuff, and it wasn't until I heard Peterson talking about uh, your partner should be your contender. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard that clip before. It's in the biblical lecture, and that I was sitting. I was dating my wife at the time. We were dating, and it was pretty early on, and that convinced me. What he said made such perfect sense to me that I knew that I wanted to marry her. And we talked about it pretty early on. We talked about getting married. It wasn't our second date, but it was probably, I don't know, 6 months in. We already had been discussing it, and we got engaged a year after we were dating, and we got married 2 years after we were dating, and we just now celebrated our second anniversary on Monday.
Congratulations.
And it is the most incredible and strange thing, and also it is difficult. I mean, like, you find ways. I've noticed ways that how do I put this? I've noticed how selfish I really am.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, son of a bitch. Like, I remember I wanted to watch Ozark. This is like early on. And she's like, I don't watch Ozark. You can watch it if you want. Watch it by yourself. And I was upset about that. And I went to my sponsor. I'm like, I'm so like, I'm changing so much, and I'm trying to be the best man I can, and she won't watch Ozark with me, and it sucks. He's like, you're just being selfish, dude. It's like, yeah, I'm a little kid, dude. But I mean, it's just because I'm petty like that, and so. But we've grown past a lot of that stuff. But I mean, it's still incredibly difficult, But it's wonderful, though. It's I don't know. It's hard. It's impossible really to describe.
Well, I mean, I think that, yeah, it is. Obviously, it's like a super complicated thing. But I think just the idea that, like, you have the commitment first, and then that commitment is real, and you're really committed to the commitment, and then you figure out all the weird stuff that might happen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, it makes it like, because without that, like, and honestly, like, and I've heard, I'm lucky enough to not experience this personally, but like, people that like are in, like cohabiting, but they're not married, there's never that feeling like at any point, of like someone always has the upper hand, and it is the person who cares less,
Right.
And the person who cares more is always having to make sure, like, am I doing what I can to please the other person? And if I'm not, they could just leave at any time.
Right.
And like, it's just, you need, like, that insecurity is like terrible. And it's like, even if everything went perfect, then it's like, oh, great. Like, how long can your relationship, like, be perfect? At some point you're going to have a fight, or something serious is going to happen. Like, you can't have, like, smooth sailing for forever. So without that, like, that structure to know, like I think the amazing thing about being married and going through this experience is, like, I really try not to screw up, and I try to not be a jerk, but I have been a jerk and I have screwed up, and my wife forgives me, and then it's better. And like that whole thing is better than me not ever screwing up, because like that's the basis for like intimacy, it's like vulnerability and being honest. And it's like, yeah, it's like crazy. Like I can't even remember, like, I don't know, we fought, it's like the stuff you fight about like early on is like really stupid, and there is a lot of that stuff, and like stuff like TV shows for some reason turns into a very serious argument, or like we would just always have these fights about like doing the dishes and stuff or whatever, or like, and it's like, this is so stupid, like, because, and it's like I don't even care, like I forgot to do the dishes. If you asked me, I would do it, but instead you want to be annoyed that I didn't do it without talking to you, like, so like that was like, we probably had that fight like 100 times or something, I don't know. Like it's so stupid.
Yeah, I said, no, this is like maybe a month ago. I said, there's just times where I know you shouldn't have to tell me to do things. I know this. I understand this. I should be more adult and better put together. But the fact is, I'm just bad at it. And I'm not going to most of the time. So, like, it would be really helpful if you just said, hey, because I'm not paying attention either sometimes, right? But it would be really helpful if you said, hey, can you do this or help me with that? And last night, a couple nights ago, she brought up something that she's like, you said you wanted me to tell you. I'm like, thank you. Like at first, and when she's telling me, I'm like, oh, but but it is. I mean, it's.
Yes, Gavin, I have said this many times to my wife that I am not a mind reader.
Well, it's the most amazing thing, but I love the security of knowing that that we're not going anywhere, and really the miracle of being a home owner and all this stuff is like it's amazing, and to be a real partner with somebody. And like you're saying, like, I don't want to be a jerk, but sometimes I am. It's like, me too. Like, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how not to be. It's like, this is where I start to recognize, again, how just selfish I really am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, though. So you and like
right now, I should be in there. Probably.
Yeah. Well, it's like Peterson's clean your room thing, and like it was funny because like I never that talk that Paul, the one you did, that you took that good clip from there with that guy Vosh or whatever. I'd never heard that one before, but somewhere in there he talked about how like the self-help stuff, it only lasts for like a little while,
right.
And like I think that's the thing, it's like single people by themselves can. You get a little motivated about cleaning your room, you do a little better for a while, but it's like then it goes away. But like being married, it's like a crucible, I mean, it's amazing, but it is also like there's no like space where you can like retreat and not like you can't, if you want it to be successful at all, you can't keep being the same person you were and be, a better husband or a better wife. You have to interact with that other person and change. And like that, that's like such a powerful transformative thing. So it's like, because I'm for a long time, like young men have been like, that's where like my heart is at and where I want to, that's what I want to help. And like God's given me 2 daughters and 1 more on the way. So like this is going to continue to be an important the health of young men in society will be an important topic for the rest of my life, for that reason alone. But
Yeah.
it's already something that God's made important to me. But like it's just like, yeah, just do the commitment first. Just pick somebody, not totally crazy. What there's limits to all this stuff. Use some wisdom, but like honestly, it's even funny because you see like people who had like shotgun marriages, which doesn't really happen that much anymore. But like people that got like pregnant in like high school or college and they got married, like they struggle a lot. But then by the time they're like 30, their life is like way more put together than most 30-year-olds now that haven't done that stuff. Like it does force you to like become a better person, and like that those are the kind of people society needs. So I think that's the thing, is that there's so much pressure on like picking the right person that too few people are getting to the real important thing, which is being in this transformative relationship that makes you grow.
Yeah. Well, and then less emphasis, and two, like less value on sex, but more of a I don't know, at least in my time, it seemed like there was, and I don't think it was just because I was a man and stuff. Like I think there was a lot of women out there where like there just wasn't, we weren't, people weren't dating. We weren't dating. I didn't know what dating was until I actually courted my wife. And, because like the sex thing was like, I don't know, there was little value on it, but like a lot of inflation on it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just go get it, and like that's the goal, and that's kind of like, and so when that would happen, there wasn't any time to actually get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And so it's like once the sex is gone, and you realize I'm not really interested in this person, and then you move along, and then that becomes a pattern that you live out, and it's empty. And my wife Ann and I, we decided right away before we ever really went on dates, we said we're not doing any of that stuff. We're not holding hands. We're not kissing. We're not nothing. We're gonna see if there's something here, and that was our focus. Can we actually be a couple? Can we actually? Do we even like each other?
This is the problem we're trying to solve here. Just so. I don't know, but don't be too picky. Commit first, and then figure it out later. I don't know. That's not really great advice. I don't know. Pray, like, because
the guys I work with, and the guys I sponsor, because they're always asking, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, are you willing to completely make the sacrifice of abstaining from sex with somebody for like at least a couple months, a month, maybe 2, at least? Well, no, like, well, I don't know what to tell you then, man, because like, because I made that mistake so many times before, and it was empty, and then I made a decision because it hurt too much to be doing that anymore. I made a decision that whoever I'm going to date from here on out, I'm actually going to date them. I'm going to see if I like this person, and I'm not going to sleep with them if I don't like them. And it worked out great because it was like no feelings were hurt, because I did date somebody before my wife, and no feelings were hurt, and it was like it was fine.
Yeah.
And then when my wife and I started dating, it was like like I knew very quickly if I could not only I knew very quickly that I really liked her as a person, and that there was something very valuable there, and between us, and she was like this exciting mystery to me, and I wanted to get to know her like forever. You know what I'm saying? And then we were able to move into some other areas and stuff. But I don't know if I'm making any sense to you guys, but I don't know. That's the best advice I would give is, you know.
Yeah, I know it is super, and I even know like people like who are in, even people when they're living together and stuff like that, when if they become Christian or whatever, and then they decide they want to get married and do things like the right way, that even just intentionally like taking a break and living separately for a little while and waiting, even though they have had this prior relation, history, that has like worked for people as like a reset, and it kind of like all the weird hangups and the weird like patterns and things that they get into as a, even though it's the same couple, like it gives them like a fresh start. So like, and I think that's something encouraging because I grew up and my hearing it in church that you should wait until you're married, and from my parents and all this stuff. But like I know a lot of churches and pastors and stuff just think like that it's so unrealistic to expect that somebody would do that they don't even bother saying it anymore. But like you should say that. But and I think yeah, it does help, like, because it's such a confusing thing getting sexually entangled with someone, because then you were really not in a good place to judge the quality of their character, or even if you have similar interests or if you have similar like goals in life and stuff like that, because it's just going to mess up all your ability to judge all those things.
Yep.
My advice to Aaron, I would say don't necessarily, I don't know, the change to my mind was thinking like not about how great it would be for me to find a woman to be married, like, because that would be great for me, it would make me better, it would complete my life. But more so, I mean, and this is like this in my personal experience, I got married to somebody that I was friends with for a long time, and I didn't really consider her that way until some kind of series of events. But it was more like some looking and being like, oh, this is a person that I want to serve her and like help her in her life, and I want to be there for her, and not about like what it does for me. So I mean, I would say, if you pray for that and ask God to show you like who, because you can be the answer to somebody else's prayers, and that's the person that you should be like looking for, and not just about like what you want. And yeah, I
can tell you what I would do. If anybody wants some advice, I'm going to give you the advice that I was given. Okay. First, I'm going to read something real quick, and then I'll just do something. So this is on page 69. It literally is on page 69 of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. Now about sex. Many of us needed to overhauling there, but above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is the lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. Then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles in the race are traceable to sex causes. They think that we do not have enough of it, or that it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. What can we do about them? So here's the advice. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. So then what you'll do is you'll make an inventory. And this is what I would suggest that anybody would do. It's very simple. So here's how you make the inventory. So you write down, and not just people that you've had sex with, but maybe any kind of relationship, or even relationship with the opposite sex. It could even be like a coworkers or whatever it is. And so the inventory goes like this. We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. So then you go through like whatever, Jane, and then you write down all the answers to that question and to all those questions there, every one of those questions, and then move on to the next, whoever, right? And then you keep doing that. And what happens is you start to see, if you're really honest with yourself about this, and invite God into this process, ask God to help you see what it is that you really need to see in this and be honest, you'll start to see yourself in a real light here. And it has this question here, what should we have done instead? Later it says here, in this way we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. So that's a prayer. We ask God to mold our ideals and live up to them. Remember always that our sex powers are God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring still about more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. And in meditation, we ask God what we should do in each specific matter. The right answers will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. So again, like you do this inventory, and it asks us to ask God to shape our sex ideal. And a lot of what I found is the sex ideal that is that is there lies in the opposite of, or in the answer to the question, what should we have done instead? Do you understand what I'm saying? So like, Jane, what should I have done instead? And really it's in all these. Where was I selfish? Well, I didn't pay attention to her. I didn't or I'm trying to hurry up because I want to get back inside here, but I know it sounds complicated, but it's really not. Like how could you know, if you want to know how to go somewhere, the best way I think in some ways is to look at your own past.
Mm-hmm.
And so that coupled with abstinence is really, and not just to be pure or anything like that, is as you said, to not pollute my judgment on trying to live out my sex ideal with my potential partner or mate. And that's actual dating. Like meeting up and hooking up isn't dating. And that's what I always thought it was. It's like, no. And the other thing is what I find is often men are completely, it's completely foreign to most men that they should set up boundaries and not rely on women to set up the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if I'm relying on you to set up the boundaries, I'm kind of screwed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I walk into a situation and I have boundaries set up, like, nope, I'm not doing this, or this, and I have a goal in mind, where can I bring God into this process um and and live up to these boundaries, that you're probably gonna have a lot better success in actually finding a partner that you actually will come to love. Like, that's my experience with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny too, because like, that's not even like my wife and I, neither of us had sex before we got married, but we still had a lot of like sexual baggage that we had to deal with because of stuff like, because she had been like told, you know, like sex is dirty, don't do it, you know. And I had watched a lot of pornography, and that was like, you know, it's like, how do you know, I didn't want that to be like that was my way of knowing like what is good or not. And you know, and it's weird, like it's weird that you can have like, this is probably because I'm sure you've experienced too, like when you're married you actually have conversations about sex like that you, I cannot imagine most people have when they're just in a relationship where they're having casual sex, or you know, or when they, you know, where you don't have that level of commitment first, because you are always having to like present some, you can't admit like what you don't know or how you're messed up or whatever, but you know, over time you're able to like work that stuff out. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then that's the thing, like it's like, yeah, even if you like, because that, you know, that, because that whole thing, you know, even the people who had known and believed like you should wait until you're married, it doesn't mean by any means that you are going, that it's, this is, and that's a lie that I think a lot of churches kind of put forward, that like if you wait until you're married then it's just going to be awesome and amazing and it's going to be so great. And like, well, no, it's tough and you kind of have to figure stuff out. And it's way better like now that I've been married for a long time, it's like, yeah, it's worth it, it's totally worth it, it's totally worth it to wait, and it's totally worth it to be patient even after you're married. And like, yeah, it's just, it's a transformative experience, marriage is. So
Yeah. But even those boundaries that I'm talking about, like, that I really think men should really consider developing their own boundaries between them and women. It's not even just in the sex realm, and it's in like all of the realms. Like yeah, you know, it's kind of like stick up for yourself or something like this. Like, if you know you, like, you know, why not have like a, I mean, what boundaries are like a preemptive plan for responsibility or something like that.
yeah,
You know, and there's something very it's like that idea of you know, like when you have complete freedom to do whatever you want, it's nuts.
yeah,
But if you have this constraint, there's so much more freedom in this constraint if you understand it. And the only way you'll understand that is if you practice it. So
yeah, yeah,
I really appreciate you talking with me, man.
yeah,
And
thank you for coming on.
yeah, and I've probably been out here for far too long. So
All right, well, enjoy your evening and enjoy your weekend.
all right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Jacob, and thanks everybody out there. Bye-bye.
Well, anybody else can feel free to come on. Yeah, link's in there somewhere. I can post it again. I don't know. The link's in there somewhere in the chat. There, I'll copy it and put it in there again. Yay. Gavin's going to come on soon. People might be interested in this strange looking Pikachu. It's actually supposed to be a tiger. And when I used to work at a church before I was married. There was a bunch of guys that lived together in like a church housing, and we hosted these foreign exchange students from China, and they're supposed to give you a gift like as part of their custom. And all the other guys, their students gave them like these fancy trinkety things, but it was like stuff that was made in China. And this kid named Bobby, who talked really weird, he liked soccer. So he's like, my name is Bobby. I like soccer. And that's how he would talk. And he said, yeah, it's just a tiger. My grandma made it. So this kid Bobby from China's grandma made this tiger, and my wife thinks it's creepy and weird, but I mean, it's so unique. It's handmade by a Chinese grandma, so I have to keep it for forever. So that's Bobby's tiger. That does not. I don't think Bobby's grandma ever saw a real tiger. So, how often are we doing this? Well, Jacob asked me to host 3 hours or so each week. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. This is a rare occurrence that I'm home without my mom. My wife's at a conference, so I don't know if I can do it maybe while I'm working on my phone. I haven't tried doing it yet, but I think it's possible. Maybe I'll do it sometimes while I'm working, but that's the goal, to have chatting streams more often, just for people to talk and connect and stuff. So I would read a book, but most of the interesting ones are not here. I guess I can read some of this. There was a good well, I don't want to make Jacob upset by reading anything that's too explicitly Christian, but seems like a pretty good book. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm a little bit tired.
Yeah, I feel you.
I had a wellness day at work. We get 4 a year, and so we went to a farm in Tennessee, and they had attractions and stuff. So got to hang out with the family.
This is like the company invites you for like a fun day or whatever, basically.
Well, it's all remote. The company is like, we work with people all over the world, and but yeah, they just schedule it, and so half of the company got last Friday, and then the other half got this Friday.
What's up, Jason?
Hey man, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
I don't think I've ever met you, Jason.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think we've
Gavin.
met before. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
What are you guys chatting about?
Well,
Caught the end of it.
Yeah, well, we just kind of Gavin just jumped on right before you, so we have not picked a topic or anything. Chad and I were talking about sex and marriage for like an hour. So
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that. Yeah,
yeah,
that was good.
yeah.
It's always a good
Sex-
topic, right?
You know, it's really great when you can have sex and like feel like God's happy about it. So I mean, I don't know. That's a good that's a good thing about marriage. But and it's even better if your wife's happy about it too. That's the best. But anyway, um, yeah, Gavin, you have a lot of interesting plans. And I like this because you actually come up with solutions to things. So
It's good to hear.
what do you think have you thought about a solution for the marriage crisis? That people aren't getting married as much anymore.
Well, one thing did occur to me, like, so supposedly there's this meaning crisis, and I do wonder how many people experiencing a meaning crisis, are not married, or maybe have only been married for an amount of time, and if they are married, what is the quality of their marriage? So, to me, like, I want to give credit, like, to my marriage and my wife for being able to avoid a meaning crisis, or maybe being able to deal with the meaning crisis in a good, with help. So I don't feel like I'm in a meaning crisis, and I give my wife and my marriage a good bit of credit for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think the meaning crisis thing, it is, I don't know. So it's kind of like one of these luxury belief things. Like, because if you have real problems, if you're dealing with anything in your life, like I can't afford housing or food, or you're in danger or any of those things, then like you don't have a meaning crisis, because those are important problems you have to solve. Like, but yeah, and I think being married, like, it is something where you're in a committed thing, and you're supposed to like, if you're doing amazing at being married, then like you probably wouldn't have a meaning crisis. But if you're doing bad at it, then you have a marriage crisis. But it's not a meaning crisis, because that's your marriage is important and you have to make it work. So yeah.
I know with my marriage, it's like the first 6 years was easy. It was like we were cruising and just hopped into a job out of college. But I tried to start my own business, and the financial situation got a little more difficult, and that's whenever there was a little bit more stress in the marriage, and then it really forced us to grow. And I like to say we grew together at that point. And so you can end up in a different kind of situation based on job security and stuff like that. Everybody's got a different situation.
Yeah. Jason, have you considered the thing that I told Chad about was my question for Paul was, like, I said somebody got annoyed because I used the term incels. I said Christian incels, but like, people who are Christians who are single and not married and want to be, but they're not. Do you think they should consider mail order brides?
Oh man, what a question. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know how any of that stuff works, so I would.
I mean, I don't really know how it works. Like, I've heard like some of these people are like crazy gold diggers or whatever, but I mean, I think like if it's like people from rough countries that are just trying to get out of there, I figure most of the guys that are signing up for those services are probably like really creepy. So if you happen to be like a decent guy, like there's a chance you could actually be a blessing to one of these women.
Yeah.
And my whole point is that, like, we put so much pressure on like getting all of your, like, Jordan Peterson saying, like, get your house fully in order and then go out and do whatever. And so that's what people always think, like they have to have their house fully in order before they get married. But like, nothing will help you get your house in order as fast as being married and living with another person, like with that commitment there.
Yeah,
to
with the
keep you from
commitment,
backing
for
out.
sure. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean, how does this work? Is there like an online dating process, or what? You just
Yeah,
like
I mean, I
you
think
get what you get?
No, I think that's basically what it is. It's basically, you're just set up with, you get to meet, email people or whatever. Like, but basically, it's like, it is a thing of like, I'm a single guy who's lonely and wants to get married, and the women are like, I live in a third world hellhole, and I want to get the heck out of here. So
Yeah.
we have our interests are aligned, at least to a certain extent.
I think there's a market for this. You should do this. It's like farmers only, except this is like international.
Yeah. Well, my other thought too is like, because they say that like whatever thing, like men, like on the dating apps, they say like men will like basically are interested in like 60% of the women, so like a little more than half, but the women are only interested in like 4% of the guys. So
Oh dang.
Yeah. So
you got to go for the desperate ones.
But if the male dating pool just starts to dry up because they're all just like, yeah, forget this, I'm just gonna get a wife from another country. Now I'm married, mission accomplished. Then those other women will start to like reassess their standards, and I don't know, could even things out a little bit.
I've actually had a similar thought before. I think it even spilled out one time. I was talking to someone who's a father. He's like, I think at the time he's probably like in his 50s, and his son is a year younger than me. And I think I had just nonchalantly, I probably had alcohol in me. I was like, yeah, he probably should look for a woman in a third world country, and he did not receive it well when I said it, but it's because, I mean, if you tell someone that, they might think that your son's not good enough to find a woman in this country or something like that. But I think there's merit to the idea of going to a country where basically you're not spoiled. So like in the United States, we're all kind of spoiled compared to if we went to another country. And so, I think if you're a good man and you want to have a family, I don't see any problem with trying to go abroad. Like, I know someone who went to China, and he met someone from Russia, and he's married to her. Now, I do know that, like, I got a tattoo. It's on my, like, and I remember him saying, we were in a hot tub one time, and he asked his wife, he said, so, hey, will you get a tattoo? What do you think about that? And she goes, it's just too permanent. So so you could end up with someone who might, they may or may not want to be with you forever, but it'd be nice to find someone who would want, a permanent marriage. They're not just trying to, use you to become a citizen of the United States or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that is probably the thing where most of these women are, and I think probably because it's mostly like weird, creepy, like, guys or older guys, whatever, that are signing up for these things. So the women are thinking like, okay, how long does it take to like stick this thing out? Like 5 years, something like that.
Indentured servitude or something.
Yeah. But like, then you just, so, maybe this is the way we should pitch it, because I do hear what you're saying about how like people don't like that idea because they're like, oh, I'm not good enough to like snag an American woman or whatever.
Well, I would pitch it, so you might not want an American woman.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, yeah, from what I hear, like, there's a lot, these women in these other cultures, they do all the cooking, they do all the cleaning. It's like being back in the 1950s or whatever. I mean, if that's what you want. Like, the other thing, because Chad and I were talking about, like, there is a good thing about like that your wife will be an opponent to you, like argue with you, fight with you a little bit. So like, it is a strengthening relationship in that way. But maybe we should say it this way, like, okay, don't worry about, you're not less of a person for going to another country to get a wife. Your challenge now is like you have a countdown, like whatever it is, 5 years, or that's how long you have to like really get her to want to stick with you for forever. So
I liked what you had said about trying to serve. Like, if you
Yeah.
can try to be of service, it's like, why would they give that up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're sitting there, you're working and you're helping to pay the bills, and you rub their feet, you give massages, whatever, you're trying to be a good servant, and you're not doing everything they say. You want to help them grow too, but yeah, it seems like that after 5 years they would say, I think I really enjoy this marriage.
Yeah. I kind of feel a similar way about like like illegal immigrants and stuff, because people kind of have this idea of like the Democrats are letting the illegal immigrants in, and they think that the illegal immigrants, whenever they get, technically they're not supposed to be allowed to vote, but they're going to let them vote or whatever, and it's all going to support the Democrats. And I say, okay, well, whatever. These people come from countries where they do have traditional values. Like, Christians need to go find these people, meet them, marry their daughters, like have them become part. Like, if we try to integrate them, like, we can integrate them into society, and not the people who just looked at them as like a political pawn. Like, they're good people, like they could be. They just, they probably need to learn English, or maybe a little more of us need to learn Spanish. But
I remember the Donald Trump comment. I was with a coworker, and the coworker's like, yeah, Donald Trump said that they're not the best people. And it's like,
yeah,
well, it's like, you can interpret these words different ways. Like, there is a way to interpret it where you say that you think that Donald Trump believes all the illegal immigrants are nasty people, right? You could interpret it that way, or you could interpret it and say, well, there's a few that aren't good people, but and so depending on what side you're on, you interpret it different ways. But I would think that most of them are, in general, most of them are pretty good, decent folks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think they expect, like, they have to work to get,
Right.
to survive and stuff like that. And yeah. Well, I know I've heard a lot of people saying like that if we just like translate the stuff about like the transgender policies and that whole agenda, just like translate all that stuff into Spanish and let these people know, because they're not in favor of any of that stuff. Like,
Yeah,
that's
a smart move.
Yeah. And so they're not going to be wanting to support policies that it's just, which that kind of just goes to show you the way that some of these people, they don't view these people as people, any of them really. Everybody is like a means to an end, like, so that's where I think we can value people and appreciate them, and that'll probably make the world a better place. So
Yeah. What do you say, Jason?
I don't know. I'm just listening right now. I don't know. I just got back from Honduras recently, actually, and the guy we met down there sounded like before he moved down there, he grew up in the U.S. and was more involved in the Hispanic Latino culture and everything, and he's probably more pro for, I don't know about illegal immigration, but at least immigration as well, because I think he worked with a lot of illegals, and most of them I think are just, like you said, just good people trying to send money home, or but yeah, I don't know. But it's like there's borders and boundaries all over though. Like, I've been I think I just looked once because I was curious about what it would take to be a citizen of India, and I think you got to live there for like 20 years or something before you can even get citizenship. Like, it's a lot. There's other places where it's a lot harder to get citizenship than in the U.S., but it is a mess here because it's just like it's a melting pot of just people. So it's just, and then with the internet too, the world's just like, all the boundaries and borders are kind of like, everything's more open now, so it's harder to, I think, sift through these things because because now you can date online and stuff, and then you can date someone in another country online now, like you're talking about it, and marry someone in another country a lot easier, or find someone there. That,
And
that
just
wouldn't
keep
have
them in
happened.
the other country, or have them come
No,
to-
no. That's Well,
Oh, okay.
I didn't mean that, but I just
Yeah.
meant like, I mean, that wouldn't have happened like 10, 20 years ago. I mean, you would like talking about mail order brides or like marrying someone from China or something like that. It's like that. That's like so more easily. You could do that because you could meet someone over there, like just through the internet now. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I do think like the internet, like, as much as there's like a lot of negative stuff about the internet and it's confusing, like I do think that there is a really good potential just for like people to be more like honest about like, this is what I really want, this is what I'm looking for, and then like finding other people, not just necessarily in like dating relationships or marriage, but just even like in the fact of like, oh, we're all meeting here on Jacob's channel with various things that we are more aligned with, and we are all interested in different things, but we all have some point of connection, and so like, whereas none of my coworkers want to watch any of this stuff on YouTube. I can't talk with them about it, so it's like, but I can talk to you guys, and you know what's going on. So it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
I do think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I just think it's, especially with the internet now, I guess it's what I mean is everything's more global now. So like you see everybody is connected. Like you see all humanity is kind of coming back to one, or you can't really ignore it as much. Or like the suffering in other parts of the world, you can't, it's kind of in your face more and more. So you have to kind of confront it, even with things like illegal immigration and all this other stuff. It's like, well, now you can actually see in other countries, or like in the Ukraine, you can see videos of people over there losing their homes. And it's like, 10 years ago, I mean, I guess you could still ignore it here, but it wouldn't be as accessible.
I ignore it.
You ignore it?
Yeah, I do. I ignore like the news.
Oh,
Because,
I never watch the news, but
sorry, I haven't seen any pictures from Ukraine or videos from Ukraine.
Yeah, I guess they really don't. It really doesn't come up that much. The main reason
it does if you there's people who just eat it all day, and I see them talking about it on Twitter, and I hear about it. Yeah, and I do software engineering, and I see where there's people saying support Ukraine. So I'm aware that there's a war. I think when it first started out, I went to like Russia TV and RT, and then I saw where like Poland had banned RT. Like, so I saw this information war just right off the bat. That's what I went looking for. Is like, I want to see more than one side. And I could tell right off the bat, there's an information war going on. And I'm just, I don't know what I can do about it. Like, I don't know how our attention is the most valuable resource in the world. And I don't know how giving my attention to this is going to do anything good or be productive. Like if I was the president, or if I was advising the president, then I would need to know about these things, but nobody wants me to advise the president.
I understand.
Well, I do think, it's funny too, just because how much of a distraction like that stuff can be, and like how much people can be like totally absorbed in like.
Well, I do want to say, like, I know that people are suffering, and I know it's terrible for people, and like you can have empathy for the suffering that they're having. So it's not like I want to dismiss war. I know there's a lot of pain and suffering there. It's a kind of a pragmatic thing. I just wanted to make sure I said that.
No, I totally understand, and it's like it's being where it gets really nasty. I mean, I hardly ever watch the news either, but like the news, a lot of it's being used in like a political game, and that's where it's hard to even be.
Like, even to say the word news, like I feel bad. It feels dirty to call it news. Like I don't actually think it's news. So it's, that's what, like,
The reason I know that some of what's going on is just because my sisters have like a nonprofit thing, and so they have a partner who's actually in Ukraine, who's been like, he's just some random guy who was helping orphans there. Then the war broke out, so he's just basically going to grocery stores, running food back around. So that's all I ever really see is like maybe his posts on Instagram or something. But I know what you mean though, because Yeah, and but that's even still like individual level. When you get up into the government level, it just seems incredibly suspicious. I don't know, to where it's just like even yeah, you want to get both sides for sure, because it was immediately all of a sudden Russia was just the scapegoat for everything. It seemed like, and then these little things started coming out. I don't know, and so I haven't kept up with it enough, but that's probably some of the reason why.
Well, and just the fact of just like you're talking about two nations or multiple nations, and like think about our nation. Roughly half the country hates everything that our government does, or probably even more than half, honestly. Like the amount of people, the amount of people that are like totally support everything our government and our military does, like line by line, like everything that every choice is the best. Like that's like probably less than 1% of the people. But we're treating it like this is the good country and that's the bad country, and everybody in the bad country is bad and everybody in the good country is good, and it's like, well, that's not the way it goes.
Yeah.
So
But that's like people, like I can't help but think about like a kind of some distribution of intelligence, like the ability to comprehend a lot of information. So if you can simplify it down to enemy and friend or ally, then that makes it easy. It's kind of lazy and easy, and simple, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because we do that as like a coping mechanism. And I heard somebody talking about this. I can't remember the exact term that they used, but they basically were saying like, we're designed to understand like a village's worth of like people and problems, and we can just get drained of like empathy and compassion so easily by like knowing about all the stuff that's going on in the world, and it's all over the world, because we can talk about like, oh, there's a war in Ukraine and Russia, and they say, but what about this that's going on in the Middle East, and what about this that's going on in Africa, and what about this that's going on in Asia? And it's like you're supposed to care equally about all these things.
You can't
which
marry
is
all the
impossible.
ladies.
Yeah, well, not even, but it's just like you can't even just like the bad. You don't have enough like bad feelings to deal with all that. So it's like, at a certain point, it'd be like, I can't do anything about that, so I have to focus on like my life and my problems, and maybe expand it a little wider than that. But
I got up really early this morning. I talked to this guy in Tasmania often, but he thinks that there's things will get worse. Like I think he thinks that there's something about the end times that we're in, but the kind of the thing I had told him this morning is like, to me it's all about leadership or the lack thereof. If ideally we should be able to point at the people in our communities and point out the best leaders and try to encourage them into positions of leadership, like locally, like everybody doing that throughout the entire world. And if we were to do that, like if we were trying to find the best leaders and raise them into positions of power, and that's what we were actually interested in, then we would be better off. Like we would be able to avoid some wars. We'd be able to avoid some pain and suffering. But then the pain and suffering happens because we don't have the right people in positions of power to solve the problems that we're facing.
Yeah, well, and it's just like, like the way that everybody focuses on things at like it's such high level, like all the time. Like, because that's the thing. It's like we treat our elections and stuff like the president is the king and he just is in charge of everything. But it's like, because I don't know who the local like people are for all the different little jobs. Like how many people are there between me and the president as far as like governmental structures? It's probably like 100 or more. I don't know, but it's like, I don't know.
Wouldn't it be cool if like, so you live in a city, like wouldn't it be cool if there was the mayor and a conversation like this? It's like, and those were happening, and you were trying to find people who it would be cool if you had a mayor that was helping to try to find the people who would make good mayors, good leaders.
Yeah.
But, like we're Yeah, I feel like the thing we're doing here is like the beginning of something that could, pave the way for how the process by which we find the people who should be leaders, the process by which we reduce the amount of pain and suffering, because we get people who maybe have that good distributed cognition network, who are doing good sense making. We get the right people into positions of leadership. I'd like us to figure out how to do that eventually as a species.
You know what? I remember hearing a podcast one time, and it was all about democratic lotteries, and basically
Random selection.
Yeah, like maybe you have some qualifications for who would be eligible, but it was really interesting because they kind of did this poll and figuring out of and the problem is the way that we do like political campaigning, that eliminates a lot of people that probably would be good leaders, because it's not about being good at the job, it's about being good at convincing people to vote for you. And those two things are not synonymous. So, because like a lot of people believe that they would be good at doing jobs in government, but they have no desire whatsoever to try to campaign and get elected. It's like, yeah, I can understand that totally, because I feel like that way. Like if I was somehow appointed to some position, I would take it very seriously, but I have no desire to try to campaign for a position. And you see that in a lot of like smaller institutions too. It's just like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The person that makes the big that's demanding attention gets put to the front. They think that they're the best and that they're qualified for everything, but that may not actually be so.
If they think they're the best and qualified for everything, then
they're
probably
almost,
not.
Yeah, they almost certainly are. Yeah, that's true.
Right. You want to have someone who's good at recognizing their own weaknesses and able to see other people having strengths in the areas where they're weak, and so they can consult. They have a good network of people they can consult, trying to solve problems. I
think like if we could do it for like House of Representatives, so like congressman, Democratic lottery, and like and this is my idea. Like the first term, you'd have like you basically get in for like a certain amount of time. Like half of it, you're observing the person that's previously elected, and then you take over after like 2 years watching and 2 years serving. And then when you're serving, you have somebody who's watching you for 2 years, and then they're going to take your place. So people know what they're doing, because that's another problem, is that we do have people that have never held a public office, and then that's what happened to Donald Trump. Like he got elected and everybody hated him, so nobody was like wanted to tell him how to be a good president.
Yeah, imagine it would take at least 6 months for me to transition into a new position that I've never really experienced before. At least 6 months. Like I forget how Chris Williamson did a short recently. It's like what happens is they do the elections, and once you get down to the last few people, I think it was someone from the CIA that he was like shining a highlight on, and it says then your CIA will come in and really explain to you how it really is, because all your campaign promises are just BS up until a point where you're the last few candidates, and then you learn the truth. You learn the things that you were saying, and you had bad data, you had bad information, going up into it. So I guess there is some kind of a transition at some point when you get into it. But I don't have a lot of faith in our leadership and the system which gets our leaders into positions of power.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad. Like I'm not even being responsible, because we moved into this house like 2 years ago, and I still haven't switched my like voting over to this town or whatever, the city. So
I didn't vote. I didn't vote this last go round.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll vote this go round. So.
I mean, I don't know. I do think like that it's if the powers that be are perfectly happy with the people that decide like non-participation is like the way to go. Like, the people that purposefully don't vote But probably, you know, I think what you're saying about your thing and is that, you know, we probably do need to figure out like who are these the most local jobs are. You know, obviously like school boards, like that's a big thing that like that's having a big effect. And
Well, I'm thinking like it might be people like us in 20 years who could end up saying, I'm interested in helping. Like, you know, once my kids are out of the house, I would be interested in helping. Like, I don't imagine it being easy to be in politics with children, like with young children. Like, there's a certain age where I would then feel more comfortable getting into politics. But that means that.
Why is that? Why do you say that?
Why do I say that?
Can you imagine
Yeah,
well, I don't know. It'd be pretty funny, like when they're doing those press conferences with the whole family, and you have like
okay.
4-year-olds being 4-year-olds, and you know such.
I like.
Yeah,
so
I
that,
guess so.
I mean, I like being able to. I guess to me, it feels like a sacrifice whenever if you commit, like when I commit to a job, like I'm like, to me, it's like church for me. My job is like church for me. It's my service. And so I put a lot into it. And I feel like when you represent a lot of people, so for me, like, I feel like accusing people like, you know, Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, I feel like accusing them sometimes of, you know, when I hear Joe Rogan say, you have to ignore the criticism, there's a part of me that wonders, well, would I be able to figure out a way to not ignore the criticism? Like, have thick skin so I can handle criticism and develop the right processes and technologies to allow the signals to rise and the noise to get filtered, so that you can do good sense making, so that you're actually representing people. Like, I'm interested in trying to do that. And so like that would take a lot of time and energy. And as a parent, like I feel like I need to give a lot of time and energy to my children. And so if I were to go into politics, I could see that consuming a lot of my time, taking it away from being a father and a husband. So that's kind of why I wouldn't. I think if you're going to be the best leader you can be, you ideally, like I'm thinking, ideally you would have been some, like either a husband or a wife, and you would have had children, and those children would have, you know, kind of moved out of the house or have become, you know, able to care for themselves so that they aren't dependent on you. And then that would probably be the right period of time. You know, they say the president needs to be at least 35 years old, but maybe it should be more like, oh, you had a successful marriage and you're a successful parent, and and now you're ready, right? Maybe even you worked in a company and you were able to really help a company do well, you know, things like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's like, you know, as we were talking about earlier, is that marriage is like such a transformative thing to our character. And obviously being a parent is like even more so, or to the next level, or you know, to a different degree. But, and I do agree with you, because it's like, I would, you know, it's funny because even then it's like with stuff like something like an education board, that's like a low level government job. So, and the problem is that people,
and an important one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then, but you know, because a lot of these people who have their desire to be a career politician, you know, they have their eyes set on being mayor, or then maybe working to the state or the, you know, so some higher level. So they need to have a resume and a career. So they start with something like being on a school board. But if you don't have kids, like, and you don't, like, you know, you may have some technical expertise because of education or whatever, but you know, that's the problem. You know, that's the problem. You know, you're supposed to be representing the education of all these children, and you don't know the first thing about children. Like, that's
Right.
Well,
not,
that's why
that's not
I think
great.
that's why I asked, because I was just curious if I guess I was thinking it the other way. Like, if the kids weren't there anymore, you almost wouldn't have this little nagging reminder or something. Like, sure, they'd be like, you wouldn't be able to dedicate your full attention, but then, like, you know, well, they're gone now, so now you don't have to. I don't know if your kid's there, like, tugging on you, you kind of always have this reminder in the back of your head, like this is who I'm doing it for, type thing. So that's why I didn't know if there was like kind of a two-way street, like if it would be better to maybe have kids in there. What is
Well-
happening with Grandma over here in the comments? Sorry.
I mean, I do think like
Michael's the host. He's the one. He gets to decide on the comments that get shown.
This
I
looks
can't see
tragic.
anything.
Oh, you
this
can't?
one.
Oh,
This one
I don't
has
know. I don't know why I can see everything too. It's weird though, but
this one. This one has
there.
a little poop emoji in there, but then most of them are just this red face.
yeah, I don't know.
And
It's a
there's so
bunch of
many
them. Bunch of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was
No,
distracting.
yeah. Well,
I can see it. I had the private chat tab. Now I see the comments.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I feel like as I could progress through all these things of like getting married and having kids, and then like having different jobs and gaining more responsibility, I feel like I'm like slowly being dragged like into like real adulthood or whatever. And it's not like because I'm not ambitious, but I see that these things are very important and like I take the responsibility very seriously. So I'm like not, so I feel like I don't want to volunteer for it. But so it's like I just took a promotion at work a couple months ago, and you know, we have a team of guys. We're all service technicians, and I'm the lead service technician now. I'm setting the schedule for the other guys. I'm in charge of training the new guys. I'm in charge of making sure everybody's got what they need, stuff like that. And then I'm still doing most of the same stuff I was doing before. But like now I'm responsible for all my peers or whatever. And it was like I don't want to add complication to my life. I'm happy with where I'm at. But then it was like I need to take this job because if I don't do it, like it's going to be much worse for everybody. Like, because one of the other guys was applying, like doesn't know anything. He had been there for much less of a time. He doesn't have the experience, and so it's like, I didn't want to do it, but it's like, I guess I have to. And like, now I'm growing and stretching in new ways. Like, but, like that's the way that I feel all of our leaders should be they should be basically I'm sacrificing my comfort, my ability to just go to work and then be done at the end of the day and not have to think about what's coming next. And, I can't do that. Now I have this extra responsibility. I have to text people and email them and call them on the phone and do all this stuff that I hate doing. Whereas before I would just work 8 hours and listen to Paul Vanderclay videos. But now I have all this other stuff I have to do. So it's like, I still get to listen to lots of videos, but
Yeah, you just, from in my experience, I have to find the company that is going to make those decisions about promoting. They're going to do it, based on, competence. Sometimes that's not the way it works. I know loyalty it's important as well. I had to learn that. At first, I think 4 years ago, I didn't understand that loyalty was important, but yeah, there's these different reasons why people make these decisions to promote. And then, so ideally, I guess for me, an organization should be promoting, your servant leader, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's trying to help, but not the selfish one who's trying to, get as much money and power as they can. Right. So
yeah.
If you're working so you could be working in an organization where you've got a manager who's trying to trick you and it doesn't want to help. It's just trying to get that next promotion.
So. Well, I've been there before, so I mean, and that's the thing too, because you get to these people with
that's politics sometimes too.
Petty tyrants that just like the ability to push people around. And I mean, there's some advantages to this. So like for the most part, I get to pick which jobs I want to do, but and so there's some that I can ignore because they are just annoying or whatever. But then sometimes it's like, crap, this is a big job. It's tough. I don't have anybody else that's going to really be able to do it the right way. If I send somebody else, they're going to screw it up. We'll have to go back and fix it later. So I'm just going to have to do it, and like, and that's, that's I can't just, I'm not just being responsible for myself. I'm being responsible for everybody else. And like, if somebody else calls in sick, then I'm the one that has to take over the extra stuff. So therefore I'm like, I just,
And what happens when you call in sick?
well, that's why I'm like, I just want to call in 60 million. You know what?
Well, you have to find the guy that's gonna, or the gal who's you want to promote into your position. You got to be searching for that one too.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But that gets the thing of like, because like, because there's a kid that he just turned, I think he just turned 20. Like he started, he called in sick today, and I was like, is this like a real thing, or is he just being 20? He might just be being a 20-year-old kid, but like whatever. But that's okay. He can do that. But then it's like, I can't do that. If I'm really sick, I'm going to call in, but I can't just do that, because that's just me being a jerk to the rest of my team. And it's not because I love the company. I don't really care about the company, but my actual coworkers that are going to have to deal with my absence and the problems that solves. Like, I don't want to, I shouldn't do that unless if I actually need them to step in and take over. Like, I should be responsible for what I'm supposed to do. So that's the way that, people should lead, I think.
People should be honest.
And
trying to help.
Yeah. And have a work ethic.
Well, guys, I might have to hop off here soon.
I think I'm gonna too, because I've been up since 4:30 in the morning.
So where are you guys located at, by the way? I was just curious.
I'm in Texas, San Antonio.
I'm in Alabama.
Okay, I'm in East Tennessee. So
East Tennessee.
probably. Are you guys Central Time?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm Eastern, so just an hour ahead of you guys.
I want to try to host at a similar time that Michael did once a week. I'm going to try to do that, but I might end up doing what Jacob does. Jacob sometimes is just sitting there typing on the computer, waiting for someone to hop in. I might let it be silent, when no one's around, but.
Well, if I see you on here, I'll try to hop on. I'd like to get to know you better, both of you guys, because I feel like I still haven't really got to know you too much. Yeah,
I'd like to try to. Yeah, I've got questions for you. It's like you mentioned Honduras, and I'm curious about that. Like, and I know that, and then, I know that both of you know more about like the Bible than I do. So, there's I know you guys have a lot of things to share that I could learn from. I like learning.
Yeah, it'd be fun to explore it with you too. I mean, I'd love to get in other people's takes on certain things, and I love doing that, digging into the scripture. That's always fun. So, Bible nerd, as Luke Thompson calls me that. He's down there in the comments. Someone called me a loser earlier too in one of these.
Hey, that's a good kind of nerd to be. You're gonna be a nerd. Sure.
Well, these are good thoughts, guys. I'm gonna go to bed tonight thinking of mail order brides. So.
Yeah. Bye. Just set it, just pray about it,
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me join in here. It was great talking to you. So I'll see you later.
See you later. All right. Well, I need to go to sleep too. So
I understand.
I will end this. It was good talking to you.
All right, Michael.
Enjoy your weekend.
You too.